Racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top here!
Oh my God! Oh. Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled!
Six very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly. This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
Good evening and welcome to Phillip Island for round number 5 of the Ozicar Skip Barber Series. It is the endurance round of this, our 4th season of this championship, and it is brought to you as always by Simfinity and Virtual Motorsport Mentor live here on Simspeed TV. My name is Ryan Jones, and alongside me as always David Haynes and Jay Kennedy behind the scenes. Looking forward to a 30-lap single race today with 2 pit stops required and about a 22-car field. This is going to be one of the more interesting races of the season, I think, David.
Well, certainly we've been to Phillip Island before in previous seasons, and my goodness, is it one hell of a race in the skippies around here. Very fast, pit straight, leads into a very fast turn 1, so a lot of passes, a lot of moves happen there. Cars stay very much bunched together.
Let's take a look then at the starting grid. It's Cameron Dance that has put himself on the pole by just over a tenth of a second. Ben Snell will start on that front row with him, and then Michael Skurlock and Russell Clark behind. Matt Marsh and Dennis Hancock are on the third row of the grid. Brendan Martin, Nathan Burney, Sean Doyle and Vic Bent Belson round out your top 10.
And then in 11th place, we've got Phillip Backett-Soulis, Peter Wilkinson in 12th, Russell Marsh 13th, Leon Williams in 14th place, Jeremy Bush in 15th, Philip Howe in 16th, Jason Few in 17th, Ira Felberg in 18th, Mark Jeffrey 19th, Darren Lassou in 20th, and then just a couple more cars, Isaac Summers, Matthew Mites, and Cameron Cousins, so that's looking like 23 to me.
It certainly does look that way, and weather for these guys, typically cool, track temp, should be plenty of grip out there. They're going to need it, because there's some high-speed corners around this racetrack, and these cars are known for having a rear end that wants to get very overzealous and overtake the front end of the car, so keeping that rear end in check, going to be aided slightly by the track temps at the moment. It also means that the high-speed nature of this place generates plenty of slipstream and drafting, and we often see a little bit of pack racing in these sorts of races. Normally, in the sprint race, it sticks around for the entire race, but this is 30 laps. It's longer than the sprint race, and it's longer than the feature race normally are. So, going to be certainly interesting to see how it all shapes up. Where drivers opt to pit as well. They have to pit twice before the end of lap 27. And with 5 seconds remaining, we're going to find out, are we still going to see those very early stops we normally do? Or are they going to leave them a little bit later? Let's find out for the only time today, for 30 laps at Phillip Island. The lights come on, the revs rise. And it's time to go racing. An even start from your first half a dozen cars. Matt Marsh quickly ducked to the racing line there to get a bit of a tow from the cars in front. As you can see them all start to fan out in the background while the first 10 or so try to run single file towards turn 1.
So a pretty clean start all around as they go towards the southern loop where the track folds back on itself and we see a little more side by side, but Leon Williams had some issues here down towards turn 1, and he might be first car with some damage, but up front, all clean, good racing as they file through the first lap.
Look at Matt Marsh. He had a little look there, just showed his nose on Russell Clark, but he had no momentum and he can't carry it down into the hairpin. Such a troublesome spot. We've seen some gruesome crashes here in real life and virtual past. Nothing of the sort on this opening lap. So it's still Cameron Dance that leads us from Snell. Skurlock was under pressure for a minute there from Russell Clark through the southern loop, but there was no way around the outside for the Milo car on this opening lap. And then, of course, Matt Marsh behind him, as mentioned. Dennis Hancock, Martin Verney, Doyle. Back at Sulis has got himself up to 10th, and been a poor start for Ben Felsen. He's fallen down the order just a little bit.
Yeah, look, it looks pretty even in the top 10, but there's some bigger movers further back in the field, like Leon Williams dropping back, Phillip Howe dropping back some, and then your big winners are looking like Jason Fewens, Isaac Summers, and Matthew Mites having a bit of a scrap as well.
Pits. Into the pits come a handful of cars from the leading group.
Oh, that was a really messy pit in from Ben Snell.
Did he whack the fence? I didn't quite catch it. I saw the smoke.
Could very well be speeding at a minimum. He got all sideways, touched some of the grass, trying to slow down on the way into pits.
There we go. Modem simulation replay on hand as ever to show us. I think he missed it. I think he just missed the fence, but that was wild for Snell. He got followed into the pits by Skurlock, who jumps him almost. Russell Clark, who's very slow and gets jumped by Matt Marsh, and there is an issue for Russell Clark. Sean Doyle as well rolls out of pit lane ahead of him. Now Russell Marsh as well. Fuel.
Yeah, long stop for Russell Clark there.
Taking fuel. Do you need fuel on this one? And takes the wrong pit exit as well. You had to take the long one. It was stated in the driver's briefing. He's taken the short exit. And that's going to aid him in getting by Russell Marsh.
Dance carried on, has a little bit of a lead. It's 2.3 seconds, which I think is enough to not be worried about the slipstream of those behind as they battle amongst each other. Is it going to be like Watkins Glen in races past, where he managed to break away from the field as they all slipstreamed and fought amongst each other?
See if Dance responds on this lap. See, he's just heading through MG now with that nice handy margin. I mean, it's not bad for him because he's all by himself. He can punch in the absolute best he could. But as he rolls through the final two corners, he takes a sharp left and brings it to the pits. Can he get it woed up a bit smoother than Ben Snell did, who started this one from second? He does. Nice and smooth then from Cameron Dance, the very experienced runner he is. But plenty of cars still remaining out on the racetrack. Dennis Hancock inherits the new lead of the race. Braden Martin and Nathan Verney right up behind him as well. Back at Sulis, and Fewens now up into 5th. Plus 12 for him.
So a few cars there pitting at the end of the second lap. Not quite what we might have expected to see. But they might just give them the chance to do a little bit of an overcut on those guys who pitted lap 1 while still having a pretty early first pit stop. So that might be a little bit of a compromise strategy there.
Cameron Dance has had a fantastic opening 2 laps of this race. He's got the net lead very comfortably. Skurlock, you can see, is a long way behind him. That'll be helped by the fact that his closest rival, Ben Snell, had a disastrous pit entry and lost a chunk of time on his outlap as well. So Dance with the early advantage, but there's not much advantage to be had by this group of cars who have stayed out. Ben Velsen, Bush, Felberg, Jeffrey, all in a bit of a tango as we head through some of the fastest parts of the racetrack, wheel to wheel. Luckily, there's plenty of room to do so in such tiny cars. But now it gets dicey with this rear end trying to step out from them across the top of Lukey Heights.
Bush is looking like the winner there, and Felberg wants in on the action as well as he dives it down to the inside, uses some of the little bit of banking you have at the hairpin, but it wasn't enough to carry speed. Velsen's going to park it up in front of him, and Jeremy Bush looks real clever as now Bent Velsen goes for the lane.
Smart decision. He will have lost some time as opposed to have pitted on lap 1 or 2, but he was only going to lose more time if he stayed out and continued on in that battle, so that could work out better for him in the long run. Speaking of long run, back at Sulis on that last lap on lap 3, quicker than all of the cars in front of him, the top 3 in the race, that is. Hancock, Martin, and Verney. just got to find a way by. Also up there is Leon Williams, who's come out of the pits a lap down after his awkward start to the race. Didn't quite catch what happened to him.
He had a wheel off the wagon, and I'm not sure if he removed that from the car by finding a wall somewhere or by finding another car, but I didn't see many other damaged cars out there, so he might have, on those cold tyres, just looped it a little.
There's not many walls you can hit at this track, is there?
They're a long way away, except for the pit wall.
Around here, Siberia is the main place you could nudge a fence easily, otherwise you're having a very big off to fly into the tyre bundles or the Armco around this joint.
Looking at the start of the race, no drive from Peter Wilkinson, gets clipped from behind. Leon Williams didn't see that one coming. There might have been some damage he was just holding on to at this point. Before it all... Front right, it's not looking good. Wow. That tyre is on a mission. So that was a replay of the start. What happened to him there for Leon Williams, who's now regrettably a lap down, but did really jump out of the way.
We all know where that tyre ended up. On board with Matt Marsh then.
I reckon that tyre made it jump into the ocean and joined Dale Jr. on the yacht.
Or found its tyre brethren. Much like that runaway wheel back at Canberra in 2000 and whatnot.
Yes, the control tyre.
Yeah, I'm sure Jay knows what year it was. He was around back then. As we head back down the main straight, Snell's under pressure, and Matt Marsh is going to breeze by him inside for turn 1, but that doesn't matter because he's going to clear him by the time they get there. And this puts Marsh up into what should be third in this race. Pit stops. Something or other. You know what I mean.
Yeah, talking about the net positions or looking at the order of the drivers who've already made their pit stop a bit deeper in the field where they stand against each other. And then up the front, the cars that haven't pitted yet, Braden Martin, Dennis Hancock, Phillip Bakatsulis still going back and forth amongst each other. Got to replay some of that action for what counts as being scored in the lead of the race. This is Braden Martin having a big cheeky look down the inside of Dennis Hancock, and there was a little bit of a touch there.
Yeah, I was looking at that. I was looking at the lap times there while you saw that. You know what I just found interesting? Hancock, Martin, Verney are lapping very comparatively to Cameron Dance. In fact, they're matching him. Matt Marsh was very quick with his massive toe. So, right now, despite battling up front, using the slipstream and slingshotting each other down these straights, this leading group of cars is holding station to the leader.
We're going to consider going 3 wide here. Dennis Hancock gets his nose into the lead. Phillip Bakatsulis tries to follow. Nathan Verney will do the same as well. So from first to fourth, Braden Martin not fighting that one, just willing to let the pack continue and do its work. And if everyone's on the same page with that, these guys aren't going to lose much time. But if one is a cat amongst the pigeons, then really sinks the podium chances of that top 4 breakaway.
They're lapping comparatively, but none of them were in the fight for the lead on the opening laps. So realistically, they're looking at rejoining somewhere around the lower regions of the top 10. Still good pace from them up front, though. Going to bode well for their individual races, even if it's not for a race win. But who knows how this one pans out with 24 laps. Still to run in round 5 of this season.
Some of the talking points. This top 4 who are going quite long on their opening stint here. Versus Cam Dance, leader of the cars that have pitted. He's picked up the pace a little bit over the last couple of laps, so he's still got 4 seconds ahead of Michael Skurlock, and then 3 seconds behind that. Matt Marsh, Ben Snell have been sort of trading their position back and forth. They pick up that big slipstream down the pit straight. Of course, it's a fast corner that leads onto the pit straight as well, and then a long pit straight, so big speeds towards turn 1.
Would a strategy be to do both your stops back to back? Avoid going through 2 full tyre warm-up sequences? Would that work out well?
There very well might be someone who tries it. I guess the alternate to that is about half of the drivers who pitted lap 1 or lap 2 are then going to go long there and then take their final stop as late as possible. So a big middle window there. I guess the other thing is go really long on the first stint here, and then maybe as much as the rules allow, backload all of your pit stops. Here is a move on second. Back at Souls trying to get in front of Vernie.
Russell Clark is going to become the first driver to complete both of his pit stops on lap 7 of this race. In fact, he pitted on lap 6, so he's going to have a long run to the end. Wrong pit exit again. That might come back to bite him after the race. He's just rejoined behind Phillip Power, so he's back in 20th now. Keep an eye on him.
21st as I see it as well, and very well close to going off the lead lap if Hancock and Bakatsulis keep going. But of course, they've still all of those 4 cars at the front, still with 2 pit stops to go.
Interesting dynamic. A few cars that have done none. 1 car that's done 2. And a whole bunch that have done 1. But Clark's getting held up, trying to get by Phillip Howe now. But further up the order, this is Snell and Matt Marsh. Remember, Marsh had got up to Snell, passed him, and is now behind him again. As into pit lane comes Michael Skurlock. You saw that from on board with Ben Snell. So Skurlock responds to Russell Clark. As his teammate is about to get jumped by Skurlock. Further ahead of them, about half a lap ahead, is the top 3. Back at Sulis, Hancock, Vernie. Well, they started the lap, Hancock, back at Sulis, Vernie. Now it's Vernie, back at Sulis, Hancock. So a lot's happened between Turn 1 and Siberia.
Yeah, very, very freely switching these positions back around. We just saw Vernie go down the inside at the hairpin for the lead, and it was not defended by Bakatsulis much at all. So at the moment, all buddy amongst the 4. Of course, Vernie and Martin are teammates there, but I think there's just a loose cooperation agreement amongst the rest.
Russell Clark still not close enough to challenge Michael Skurlock. Remember, Clark had a pretty slow first stop. Doesn't seem to have translated into a shorter second stop as Dennis Hancock peels off from the lead and group and comes into the pit lane, leaving Vernie back at Sulis. And then a small margin back to Braden Martin. Ooh, close fight at the line that time by. There was 19 thousandths of a second separating back at Sulis from Vernie.
It's pretty much the same case here between Fellberg and Bush, as well as their side-by-side coming underneath the Melbourne Bridge there, but Bush has gotten his nose in front.
He'll have this one at Turn 1 as long as it doesn't drive it in too deep. Fellberg was quite conservative.
There's a pit exit you're meant to be taking, as you like to say, Ryan Jones, and that's going to feed out pretty close to Ben Snell and Matt Marsh here. But Dennis Hancock just making his first pit stop.
So Hancock comes out behind Marsh and Snell. It's an interesting spot. He's therefore only a couple of seconds away from the podium fight, because they've all done 1 stop now. And I think that's just about enough, as much as my brain can handle. As
yeah, you really got to bust out the calculator for some of these in a 2-stop race, work out exactly who is sitting in a good position and who is maybe not so.
pinch of tyre smoke from back at Sulis as he dives it in deep down that hill. Trying to defend from Vernie, but he need not do that anymore because Vernie comes in, drags Braden Martin with him, and that is way too committed. But it works out for Vernie, so maybe that was just enough commitment. Jason Fewens also peels off, followed by Jeremy Bush.
So is that a strategy just to split the race into 3 segments of 10 laps? You know, pit after lap 10, pit after lap 20, and then, you know, you've diced it up into 3 even pieces? Or are they reacting?
Yes. I don't know. I can think of a few different strategies you could run for sure. That's one of them. The other is similar to what we normally see, pit at the very start, like Clark has done. Do them both late, or do them back-to-back in the middle, or bookend the race, one at the start, one at the end. Plenty to play out as Snell goes fastest of the race so far, while he runs in 5th, courtesy of a good slingshot past Marsh.
It's pretty cool track temperatures. The tyres on these skippies last forever anyway. I don't think there's a whole lot of performance advantage from putting those new tyres on. It's not a, 150 lap race. They're pretty well bulletproof so long as they're in their temperature window.
Braden Martin's lost a lot of time compared to Hancock. Like, a lot. There's Hancock to the right of Vernie, off screen. There he is. And Braden Martin is all the way over there. He was about a second or 2 off Hancock. Now he's about 5 or 6. That's gone badly for him. Jason Fewens has emerged side by side with Russell Marsh, and Russell Marsh wins out. Both of these drivers, I think, at this point have taken 1 stop. We know Fewens has. And I would imagine Russell has as well. Is there a move to be made up at Lukey Heights this time? No. Jason just backs off and lets Marsh drive it deep into the corner, and over the crest they descend and towards a very tricky, acute right hand that is MG, as now pitting from the lead is Ira Felberg, leaving just back at Sulis.
Also, Cameron Cousins hasn't made a pit stop, but he's a little bit deeper in the field than is basically a whole pit stop behind Dance, Marsh, and Snell, some of whom we are watching here. There's a little back and forth between Matt Marsh and Ben Snell. Just barely 0.2 of a second quicker than Dance last lap, so they're not really catching him, but they're not giving away a whole lot either. I think the early break, going that 1 lap longer earlier for Dance, just a little overcut, has given him clear track, no one slipstreaming up behind him. He's got, a Phillip Island all to himself.
See whether he can remain mistake-free for the next 2/3 of this race as we go on board with Braden Martin behind Mites. Mites having a good run so far, up to 10th after starting this race 22nd. Looks like he pitted on the opening lap, so been a very good run from him so far.
And we're also seeing some interesting pit stop times, some interesting numbers on that one, where normally in the feature races, we'll just change 2 tyres. It takes about 10 to 12 seconds, pretty much in that range. There's a few stops that have been a bit longer than that, including Braden Martin. 16-second stop, speculating, might have gone for a bit of fuel and taken on more than could be added in just the time for changing the tyres. Here's Snell and Marsh just swapperinoing once again. That's not a word, but you get the idea.
0.3 quicker than Dance last lap. So they're finding small amounts of time. 0.2 over 18 laps. Is it enough to shut down a 6-second gap? I don't know. I've actually got no idea. We'll find out, won't we? Michael Skurlock, though, He's done both his stops, hasn't he?
Yep.
Where's he emerged relative to Russell Clark?
He's ahead of Russell Clark.
Ahead of him by about 4 seconds. What did you say the pit stop times were? Overall.
You after stop time or pit lane transit time?
Pit lane.
Somewhere between 35 and 40 seconds is the pit lane transit time, and I believe that counts from where the pit limit starts to where it ends, not including the in and exit.
Out. Probably take a little bit off your lap time coming in. You obviously lose a chunk coming out. But right now, Skurlock is 37 seconds behind Matt Marsh and Ben Snell, so that suggests that those two are not only working together, slowly catching Dance, but in doing so they are driving away from other challenges for the podium, including Skurlock and Russell Clark, working out very nicely for Marsh and Snell right now.
In fact, they cross the line. Marsh just grabs the fastest lap of the race and pretty well equals exactly what Ben Snell did as well, but it's 10th slower than... Sorry, only a 10th faster than Dance, so they're consistent here, these two, but just not pulling any big chunks out of the handy little lead that Cam Dance has got.
Still a lot of time for this race to play out differently, plus those pit stops as well. You saw from Snell how easy it is to get it wrong. He was lucky to get away with it like he did. Cameron Dance will have to make sure he doesn't get lulled into a false sense of security before he dives to the pits sometime between now and then. Mark Jeffrey, meanwhile, runs in 20th. He's having a pretty so-so race. He's dropped one from where he started. And he's about to end up a little ways off the cars in front. Clark's driving away from him. He's got 10 seconds to the car behind him. He's quicker than, so I don't see this one getting any better for Mark Jeffrey at this point.
He's made one of his pit stops, though, so you add about a pit stop delta to Cameron Cousins, who hasn't stopped, and it'll actually be pretty close. So it could be in some action a bit later on. Yep. Of course, the double pit stop thing spaces them out a bit, and then we'll hopefully bring them back together again at the end.
Very technical there, Davis.
Race format, that's what I meant to say, isn't it?
We are an encyclopedia of proper ways to use the English language here. Be quiet, Shay. As Snell and Marsh
here comes
do their
Cousins'
old
pit stop right on cue as well. So
yeah,
where's that going to be compared to Mark Jeffrey? What kind of service is Cousins taking in the first pit stop? And then the other thing is that leaves just one car out there that has not stopped at all yet, and that's Phillip Bakatsulis in the lead.
So it's back at Silas too. Does he do his stops back to back? I think at this point he does. Unless he... Whoa, steady on. Steady on. Steady. Not that steady. He was on the outside. Lost a lot of time.
I think Darren Lassou ended up backing out of that one a little bit. Jeremy Bush was cautious in the middle. And Michael Skurlock, who's made his 2 stops, is now, I think, taking some of the pain of that strategy. He's really got to work through a bunch of cars that have only made 1 stop, or in some cases have made no stops yet. So 2 stops early, looks good on paper, but then you end up in all this traffic, I think.
One of those situations when you're 2 or 3 wide where everyone backs out of it, and you end up going through the corner rather awkwardly, slowly. Oh no, Ira. That was awkwardly quick. He slides off the road and ends up rejoining behind Russell Clark and his teammate Isaac Summers. Finally back at Seals Pits the first time today, and it's a time where he could go back to back and do both his stops at halfway.
His Dance go back through into the lead, and that's going to update your timing tower. So he's clearly just 5.3 seconds ahead of those behind, but Ben Snell gets another fastest lap, and that's probably helped a little bit of tow from Leon Williams there.
46.6 from Snell, that's pretty fast. Dance only 46.98. They gain a tenth or so consistently, and every now and then they gain 3 tenths or so. They need to put together those bigger cutbacks a bit more often. Back at Sulis rejoined behind Braden Martin. So he runs 8th right now. A net 10 seconds or so behind Sherlock and Clark. Once he makes a second stop. Big gap behind Marsh to Verney and the rest of the field, isn't there? About 10 seconds.
Yeah, it's 3 horses at the moment. Sort of Cam Dance out front, 5 seconds, then second and third here. And then, yeah, maybe the way that the 4 cars that went a bit longer, you know, Hancock and Verney, etc., maybe they thought they were being clever at the time, but actually they lost a bit more time compared to those that pitted lap 1, lap 2. It's not time for that to shake out.
Not 3 horses, 450 at the front.
Did you have to break out your calculator for that one?
I did have to search up how many horsepower these skippies produce. But luckily I was able to multiply 150 by 3 in my head. It's a nice even number. But if there was a 1, I'd be in trouble. If there's 151, that's where you break down. As the lead changes hands once more. Or rather, this is the group that was leading the race at one point. Hancock, Verney, and Wilkinson. Hancock and Verney. Wilkinson's a lap down. We'll get there eventually.
But Wilkinson has made the 2 stops, and you remember had that problem stalling on the grid. I think it was a stall, wasn't it? Just didn't get away quite how
it wasn't
they
fast,
anticipated.
I can tell you that much.
No, it wasn't a drag launch.
Ooh, that was close to touching as they came out of the southern loop. Braden Martin almost drifting into the left rear tyre back at Sulis. You should complete this move finally. Down at the hairpin for P7. So back at Sulis gets 1 spot back over Martin. Remember, these 2 were in the same group. Martin pitted before back at Sulis did, and now they've been reunited on the racetrack. Stella and Marsh never were apart though. They've been together all race long, just ticking past halfway. The gap to the lead is still 5.1, but it's less than it was.
It's just bouncing around a little bit, around about 5 seconds. On the straight, he really is where Snell and Marsh should be a little quicker if they're leapfrogging.
Both of them quite slow that lap, actually.
Yeah, 147, they lose
3
3 tenths, indeed.
All it takes is the leading car to make a mistake, and then you trip over each other, and you lose that time. It's not easy to consistently work together like they are at the moment, as Martin now makes his second stop of the race, not wanting to be held up anymore by a battle with Bucket Sulis, who obviously isn't going back-to-back with his pit stops. Maybe he'll pit as late as he can for his second one.
Yeah, so now a handful of cars that have made their 2 required pit stops. No one in the top 10, though. Critically, the first car that has done their 2 is Skurlock in 11th. He's now got a bit more clean track, though, in front of him. You remember, for a few laps there, he was really trying to work through a few cars that hadn't made as many pit stops as him. Ooh, bit of grass there, but that doesn't seem to hurt for Skurlock, tipping it into one of the 2 hairpins around here. The other one there at MG, looking backwards from Hancock at Verney, and The lap down car of Wilkinson, I believe it is there as well. So doing a good job to stick with these guys, interestingly. Such is the power of the slipstream, especially here down the straight, where you see Hancock maybe taking an unconventional line as well.
That'll be more frustrating than anything for Wilkinson. He'll be thinking what could have been with the pace he's showing right now. That's a pretty late move from Vernie. Hancock has to really back off to let him go. But it's probably actually one of the best spots to do it, because it allows Vernie to carry as much speed as possible through the corner. Snell and Marsh, pretty sure the track's dipped a bit in temperature. It's found some grip over the last little bit because all of them have suddenly shaved almost a full second off their lap times.
We haven't seen any crazy changes in track temperature. I think these tyres just keep giving. They keep working in. Maybe just a little bit of rubber goes down, and you look at Phillip Howe trying to battle Cameron Cousins. Both these guys have made one pit stop. Cameron Cousins stopped a little bit longer. I might have had to take some fuel at that one.
Yeah, I think I did see that. He was rotting back to Silas, actually. Definitely took some fuel. Stationary for a little while after the tyres were put on and the car dropped off its jacks, or jack, if it's just the front end getting changed. That was pretty wide from Cameron Cousins exiting Southern Loop. He almost looped it, a bit like Isaac Summers just did 2 corners further down the racetrack.
That's big. Ben Snell going for the final pit stop from what was second or third position. Is that going to force the others like Matt Marsh and Cameron Dance to cover it off, or are they going to still go long?
Phillip Howe just had the clumsiest touch with Cameron Cousins I think I've ever seen. He almost drove into him, trying to pull the overtake down at the hairpin. Slowed up massively as a result, and still managed to drive into him coming off the exit of the corner.
Summers has had another all 4 in the grass escapade as well, so I don't know if the balance is weird on that car as it's getting through the stint, maybe getting through some of the fuel as well.
Hang on. Whoop. Snell's taken the Russell Clark pit exit.
Birds of a feather?
What? I don't.
Well, they're teammates. They're doing the same thing. So, Isaac Summers pitting as well.
Board with Dennis Hancock. He's about to cycle back towards the lead of the race if those top 2 pit before himself and Vernie, as happened at the first stint. Wonder what Marsh does. Surely he pits and tries to get back with Snell. They were working well together. Marsh's pace now is suddenly slower than that of Cameron Dance. Yep. In comes Marsh. Dance stays out. He's by himself. There's no point adjusting his own strategy to still be by himself. Something he's used to.
Yeah, going a little bit longer on the first stint helped him out as well. So unless he thought he was really going to come up against some traffic, I don't see why the leader would need to react in a hurry to these stops from Marsh, Hancock, Snell, etc. So where's Matt Marsh going to come out in here compared to Ben Snell? Just getting up to speed at the exit now is Marsh. There he is.
Pit exit. I know it was supposed to be mentioned in the driver's briefing. Don't know if it ever ended up being mentioned, but if it was, I wonder what the ruling was. Whether it was take the long one off there's traffic, always take the long run, or what. And if there is any sort of slap on the wrist or a penalty if there is deemed to be any sort of advantage. I've seen at least one car leapfrog another, taking the short pit exit as opposed to the long run. But here's Sean Doyle, 14th at the moment, under a little bit of pressure from
Braden Martin, both of them have stopped already. So they both got 2 stops to their name. Cleared out their requirement in that regard. It's a bit hot, a bit sideways, a bit smoky.
normal barbecue, isn't it? Hot, smoky, and sideways.
Did make me hungry, I was thinking about a pizza oven or something.
Yes, let's talk about nice, juicy pizzas. Because we all know our director loves a good old pizza, doesn't he, David?
Oh, I'm sure.
Poor Jay. Poor Jay.
Marsh and Fewens on the pit lane together as well, so they're going to clear out their pit stop requirement. Russell Marsh, Jason Fewens.
He also pointed out the 4 and 20 sign in the background there.
I love
somewhere on this racetrack as well, which is a pie, obviously, but
there it is.
There's another thing
We
can all enjoy, unless you're Jay. And Jay's voice gets sadder and sadder. In the background, Doyle and Martin wheel to wheel, and now nose to tail through turn 1. So, Snell and Marsh are no longer together, no longer able to draft off each other. One lap where Marsh was by himself, he was considerably slower than Dance. Can't help but feel this second pit stop might have broken up a chance at them to claw up to the lead of the race. All depends on how this stop goes for Dance. He's in the lane now, but here's a replay of Bent Velsen going wide.
Not great, not terrible. Felt a bit of pressure from Skurlock on that one.
Skurlock? Did you say Skurlock or Skurlock?
I said Skurlock, but there was like a bit of a click in it.
Cameron Dance rolls off the lane then, and straight onto the racetrack. And he's got a pretty handy lead, so he's not lost any time there. In fact, he's gained time, if anything. He seems to be a long way ahead of Snell right now. Dance.
Yeah, it's gone from 5 seconds to 9 seconds to almost 10 seconds, I think.
What's happened there?
Better in lap, better out lap, slightly quicker pit stop all around every time.
That's pretty easy for Braden Martin. Gives you a good visual representation of the power the slipstream has. Even once you pull out, you're pull out from it behind, and you hit the brick wall almost of air resistance. You're still carrying all that extra momentum. It allows you to keep powering on by it. But Doyle and Martin have been trading spots lap after lap down to that first corner. They're lapping considerably quicker than Hancock up the road, but they are about 10 seconds behind him. There is only 7 or 8 laps left in this race. It's actually gone by pretty quickly. There is just one car remaining in front of Dance. Back at Sulis is out of sequence as well, running in 3rd right now on the racetrack. Both him and Vernie, who's out front, yet to make their second stop.
And Bent Velsen, the only other car that with only 1 stop to their name now, so it's almost all gone through. Probably not great for Ben Snell here that he might be losing touch to, definitely losing touch to Cam Dance. Might be having Matt Marsh close up. The pit stop window has been pretty poor for Matt Marsh, who was right with Ben Snell and is now a couple seconds back. It's Ben Velsen to make it only 2 cars left to clear their pit stop requirement in this race. This might look like Bakatsulis is letting it go almost. Well, that then becomes the inside for the next hairpin. Oh!
Oh, good job. Yeah, they keep on going. That is the scene of many accidents in not too dissimilar fashion. As Fewins and Howe do the old switcheroo, or as you would like to say, a swapperino.
They're related terms.
I'm sure.
Both of equal English language merit.
Gonna come back at him through and into the hairpin. Thewins is going to have the advantage with that inside line. Can Howe switch back and get the crossover? Well, that's a pretty resounding yes. Mistake on the exit for Thewins, ran too wide, and on that AstroTurf couldn't find much grip to get the power down quick enough.
Might have even beyond the AstroTurf and onto some of the actual dust and grass as well. On that case, it wasn't super wide, but it was wide enough that it's not the optimal line. It's not the fast way around there.
Race leader is just getting by some light traffic down at the hairpin, while these two duel down towards turn one. I think they know how this one's going to end. Yep. Single file through turn one. Doyle's got to run, but he won't go on with it. Through Southern Loop. They're both working together right now. Still 9 seconds away from Hancock. So not going to catch him unless something happens, but you don't want to leave any time up there on the table because you never know what may happen to someone up the road. Could have a spin, could have an incident, could have an issue of any sort.
And Fewins has gotten back in front of Howe in this battle. So there's a couple going on, and this can run all the way to the end. Same deal with Doyle's got in front of Martin, but then he's come into the hairpin. No, sensibly. I thought he'd gotten it all out of shape there.
Couple different battles that are going to go right down to the wire in this race. I don't think the race leader's one of them. It's 9 seconds in favour of Cameron Dance as he begins lap 25, 6 to go in this endurance round, our 5th round of 4th season for the Ozicar Formula Skip Barber Series. Dance making a late charge at the championship, perhaps. Matt Marsh is leading at the moment. He's only back in 5th. That should become 4th, though, once Vernie makes his stop, and maybe even 3rd, actually, once Bakatsulis pits as well.
Lining up the move, using all the slipstream, pulling out towards the inside of turn one. And there you go. Easy, like it's been a couple laps for these guys. It was live pictures, but it could have been a replay of like 2 laps ago, such as being Martin and Doyle playing hot potato with that particular position. Final stops from Phillip, Howe and Cameron Cousins. A 3rd stop for some reason for Jeremy Bush. Might have realised that a full tank of fuel is not going to take you to the end from the start. Could be fuel there for Bush.
Cousins had already done both at pit stops, hadn't he, as well?
I don't know, I'm seeing 2 pit stops now completed as Nathan Verney is in on the lane as well to put Cameron Dance back into the lead. So just fill it back at Soulis, and then everyone will have made 2 pit stops, or should I say at least 2 pit stops. Oh, Martin's off the road. he's gone back and forth there with Sean Doyle for a bit, and that has not quite worked out.
How's he get it off there? On the inside, on the extra loogie heights.
We are about to find out. The rear's just gotten loose on him coming across the hill there, I think.
Good recovery to get that turned and pointed back to the racetrack, and lost probably the smallest amount of time he possibly could from that mistake, or if you want to call it a mistake, that rear end just completely unabiding to what he wanted from it. I'm sure that makes sense to someone. Mike Sankoff now second between them on the racetrack. Hancock's been running him down half a second quicker on the previous lap, so end of this lap he should be right there with him. Still a long way in front of Sean Doyle, who's now going to find no benefit of a drafting partner in the way of Braden Martin. Looks like they might be resigned to 10th and 11th. Bent Velson is back in 13th behind Jason Fewins. Vernie rejoined in 6th, and back at Silas in 9th.
So both of them stay in the top 10 there, but yeah, from 1st to 6th and from 3rd to 9th.
Really been a good drive from Matthew Mites, though, hasn't it? Talked about him a little bit earlier on. Up from 22nd to 10th now. Oh, 8th. 7th. And every chance of finishing 7th, but he's going to have to fight Hancock for it, that's for sure.
I think so. Look at the move down the straight there. Just make sure that the car behind has to follow you. And that's Hancock's personal best lap of the race. He did pick up a real big toe behind Matthew Mites just then. So he keeps clawing his way up towards 7th place.
At 27 of 30, the gap at the front, 7.9 seconds. Snell lapping quicker than Dance, but every chance that Cameron is no longer pushing as hard as he needs to, but as hard as he can do, only pushing as hard as he needs to. No reason to push the car to the limit and risk a mistake, which could potentially put him either within striking distance or already behind Ben Snell. So Cameron Dance is cruising at the front. Ben Snell is doing everything he can, but probably going to end up being not enough. Behind, though, Hancock and Mites still doing battle, and Hancock's now closed up to a point where he's certainly able to make a move if he wants to. He'll wait until down at the first corner, or down the main straight, rather. He should be able to get it done.
It's a little futile to try to attempt to pass anywhere else, knowing that the guy behind would then pass you back immediately when you came to the pit straight, unless you had a really good move through MG or Siberia or something. Here comes the draft. Pretty well textbook, that one.
We've seen that a few times today. But Mites, if he's got enough pace, should be able to stick with him and give him a taste of his own medicine on the next lap. So stay tuned for that one. 2.5 laps to go.
Again, that was another personal best from Dennis Hancock, a 1 minute 47.0. So the speed really doesn't go away from these cars throughout the race. If anything, about what they've been for most of the race. And that's interesting because there's a few places around the track you can see they've kicked, dust and dirt onto the racing line. So it might be, more rubbered in some places. But there's a few where you'd expect there to be less grip now than there was at the start of the race. I think you look for the inside of MG as an example here, and then also around. Is there any there? On the exit a little as well.
They could catch. In fact, they will catch Nathan Verney as well. These two. So this is going to quickly become a battle for 6th. And it will probably become so on the final lap of the race. As Mites is about to have a look at the first corner on Dennis Hancock. Hancock won't Mites doesn't go for it. He lifted off there.
I think he wants to see Hancock catch Verney.
Yeah.
Make it a 3-car fight here for 6th.
It's more likely to happen if Mites goes by. He would have gained a 10th or 2 through turn 1. Maybe he didn't want to risk Hancock trying to hold it around his outside at this late stage of the race, but they're certainly going to catch Verney, aren't they? Right up behind him. Verney might find himself losing 2 spots. Next time he gets to turn 1, he'll have to find a way to get back by them before they finish into that last lap. Oh, Mites really overcooks it. He's just going to get away with it. He'll stay latched onto the group.
Shouldn't be a difficult braking zone down there, but it kind of is the hardest stop on the lap. It's mainly a straight line, flat braking zone, but still can be deceptive. Verney's under all sorts of pressure. I wonder if there's any fuel concerns, any fuel dramas here. You say some of them needed to take just a little bit at some of their pit stops. Some of them might have judged that a little short. We've started the final lap.
I just either heard someone packing a dishwasher or a crash. I think it might have been the first, but it wasn't my house, that's for sure. Down the main straight, Verney.
Been outside my door, sorry.
Okay. Verney, Hancock, Mites. Hancock. That's a slingshot by Verney. Mites is too far back to make a move. He got it wrong in the final sector. Gonna get to the outside of Verney, though. Can't do anything about it at turn 1. As Hancock moves himself up to 6th, and Verney almost runs himself off the road. Just about keeps it between the painted white lines. Look for some moves down at the hairpin here as well. Mites with a pretty solid exit.
They still get a good slipstream on this run down the hill in these cars, that's for sure.
Don't forget about the run to the line. Plenty of opportunity for moves to be made by the time they get to the start-finish line on the last lap. We've seen it before, and we'll see it again. Will it be today? Verney, I think, is in the best spot right now. Mites needs to be better in the final sector than he was on the previous lap if he wants to challenge. Drops about a car length out of Siberia. But up front, Cameron Dance is on the main straight, and at the end of 30 laps, Cameron Dance is going to win the endurance round of the Ozicar Formula Skip Barbers 4th season. Ben Snell will come home in 2nd. It'll be 3rd for Matt Marsh. The battle for 6th, though, is undecided. Hancock's got maybe enough in hand over Verney through the last corner. Is anyone close enough to make a move by the time they get to the start-finish line? Hancock trying to move it across the road and shake the draft. He's going to do enough, and Hancock will finish 6th from Verney from Mites.
Right behind the leader was the battle. Russell, Marsh, Phillip Howe, Jeremy Bush. They were just off the lead lap, so they caught the checkered flag then. Darren Lesueur and Isaac Summers have also got a little bit of a battle that could go down to the wire over 15th and 16th. Whoa, Summers, I think, had a bit of a wiggle there coming over Lukey Heights, but now he's going to look to the inside at MG. I don't think he was quite close enough, but forcing a mistake is the only way I think that's going to get him a position between now and the line.
If he tucked in for MG, he'd have been close enough, but pushed it very wide, and that might hurt him. In fact, it will, and it has. So Lassou will hold on to that spot.
And the last car on the lead lap's just behind Damon Ira Felberg, and that will be everyone to the checkered flag. And Lassou can hold on to 15th. Your winner, though, has made it around a victory lap, and I think he's bringing this to the start-finish line to attempt to do some burnouts or some donuts. Let's see what Cam... No, let's not see what Cam Dance does.
This is what happens when Jay directs a broadcast. No donuts. Oh, there we go. Cameron, what is that? That is a disappointment to everyone.
Boo.
8.7 seconds was the winning margin over Ben Snell. Matt Marsh on the podium, as mentioned. Michael Skurlock and Russell Clark, 4th and 5th from the three-way fight of Hancock, Verney, and Mites at the final lap. Beckett Soulis comes home in 9th after leading at stages with his alternate strategy, and Sean Doyle picks up 10th.
11th was Braden Martin. Fell down the order a little bit late in the race there, but was part of a great battle towards the end still, though. Jason Fewens in 12th, Big Ben Veltson 13th, Mark Jeffrey 14th, Darren Lassou 15th, and Isaac Summers 16th. We saw that one, and Ira Felberg just on their coattails there in 17th. Cracking battle on the last lap. Well, what was the last lap for them? Russell Marsh, Phillip Howe, and Jeremy Bush 18th, 19th, 20th off the lead lap, but only barely in this endurance round. And then the remaining cars, Peter Wilkinson stalled off the line, Cameron Cousins 22nd, and Leon Williams in some wars, and it all started before he even crossed the line on lap 1, making contact with the stalled car.
Round 5 was certainly an exciting one, and there's still another round left to go in the season. Before then, let's have a chat to our race winner, Cameron Dance. Congratulations, you got it done. In the end, it was a bit of a runaway victory for you.
Yeah, it kind of was, actually. I wasn't quite expecting it to be such an easy win, especially with how this track normally plays out with all the draft and everything that goes on. But yeah, in the end, it was a victory that I'll take.
And why did you opt to be the disappointment of sim racing fans across the world by not doing any celebratory donuts?
Bit of a problem when there's not a lot of fuel in the tank and you're coughing on the way up to Logie Heights. So yeah, that was a problem. But yeah, it's also not the easiest car to do donuts in unless you're talking about one-wheel donuts.
You've got plenty of experience in those. So talk us through the race. I mean, pretty easy. It was really the first pit stop that broke you free of everyone else, and second stop as well was really good. Any particular reason you can think of that you managed to find those times in the cycles?
I'm not entirely sure on how I managed to jump everybody by so much in the first stop. I'm not sure whether it was down to whether I positioned the car right, had a really good entry on the way in, or what the story was, but it managed to put me in a good position, and then from there it was just a matter of putting in nice, clean, consistent laps. Turn 1 was a little bit hairy on cold tyres, but in the end it was pretty easy with the fact that once the tyres were up to speed, you got to go flat through there, which was pretty fun. But yeah, the second stop was actually even better than the first one based on the gap that I gained. So yeah, to do the pit stops that we had, it was just, I guess, one of those things where positioning the car was the best way to do it in the end.
Well, another race winner for you in Aussie car competition. Who do you want to thank for helping me get it done?
Yeah, first of all, shout out to Ira for the series, all the boys for the racing on track, you guys for the broadcast, Kiwi Simulators, Hyper Stimulator, TechSense, FitSty, Renval, Demon Tweaks, Fight CRC, and yeah, I think that's about it.
Oh, sorry, I just made a cup of tea during that. Thank you, Cameron, and we'll have a chat to you a little bit later on in the season, probably. Let's also bring up Ben Snell with David Haynes.
Yep, our second place finisher, Ben Snell. Great bit of back and forth between yourself and Matt Marsh over the podium positions earlier in the race. What's these cars like at Phillip Island? Because we know the slipstream can be pretty strong.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Me and Matt worked really well together. We managed to break away from the rest of the contenders. Unfortunately, just had nothing to match Cam with. He drove away tonight and did a great job. But I was predicting a real big peloton race, and then I went and binned the pit stop on the first lap, and let Cam get away. So it just turned into a race with a couple of packs, and that was about it. But when you got someone like Matt that understands the dance when it comes to drafting and working well together, it's a dream. Like you can make up some time compared to driving by yourself, and definitely make up time compared to fighting in a 3 or 4 car pack. But unfortunately, just wasn't enough tonight.
What was the thinking about the pit stops going into this race? Did you adjust any of that at all? Because it really blew open the strategy, even compared to just one pit stop.
Yeah, for sure. So the plan was always do the pit stop on the first lap. We were going to be short on fuel for a tank, so we had to take fuel either way. So I started with 15. I think that's what everybody did, and then brimmed the car on the first stop, and then just basically drove around until there was an opportunity where I felt like the second pit stop was a strategical advantage, and in my case it was to get away from Matt and try and solidify second. And but yeah, definitely the 2 stops got a lot more strategy involved, because you had to wait, I think, probably 6 or 7 laps before you could make it on fuel to the end.
Well, congrats on second after a very long race in Ozicar Skip Barber terms. Thank you for finding the time to chat with us as well. Who are you going to thank, Ben?
No problems. Of course, massive shout out to you guys for putting on the broadcast. Shout out to Ira and the rest of the Aussie Car crew, and Team Milo's Russell does say hi.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Ben Snell home in second, and Matt Marsh home in third place. Matt, you had a fantastic race up until the second pit stop, and then it sort of fell apart. What happened there?
Oh, it was just so icy after I come out of the pits there, hey, and I was driving a little bit too hard, I think, trying to keep up with Ben, who already had a lap of heat into his tyres. He got the nice undercut on me, and I just couldn't keep up with him, and that's okay. I think we worked real well together through that middle sector of the race, which meant we overcut everyone, so that was nice.
Do you think if you'd been able to stick with him after that second stop, you might have been able to catch Cameron Dance? You were getting time, but slowly.
Probably too slow, I'm thinking. Hey, we just weren't making enough of a dent in Cameron's time. I was watching the relative, and then when Ben pulled in for his second pit stop, it was abort mission and just try and react to his pit stop anyway.
In terms of the championship, though, pretty sure he came in here with the championship lead. He should still have it heading into the final round. You confident there?
I've got a pretty nice lead, but it's hard to be confident with Bathurst as the last track. It'll be a game of survival for me in that one. I've really just got to finish both races, and I should be in an okay position. So,
well, certainly wishing you the best of luck, and hopefully conversations with you are good after that round next time out. Who do you want to thank, Lo, for helping you so far this season?
I just thank you guys and Aussie Car for putting on a great series as always, and all the boys for some great racing. It's been good fun.
Thank you very much, Matt. Congratulations. Good luck next week.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.
Matt Marsh home in third, and that does us then for tonight's coverage of the Aussie Car Formula Skip Barber Series. Remember, as Matt said, it'll be Bathurst to close out our season this time next week, 6:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time. You can do your own conversions there. Thank you to Simspeed TV Virtual Motorsport Mentor and Jay up in the director's chair, and David as well. From all of us here tonight, thank you for watching. See you next time.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to him.
Oh my God. Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go.
Oh no.
That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?